Today, we are joined by Travis Tallent, Managing Director of SEO and CRO.
Been doing SEO for about 12 years at this point. We work with the world's largest enterprise brands.
How did you guys approach that 61 million pages, I think I heard you say?
It was 400% growth in SEO optimized traffic.
I'm curious, your approach to top of the funnel content.
The goal of upper funnel content is not traffic. The goal of upper funnel content is SERP visibility.
What are some of the biggest things they can do to get visibility gains with limited resources?
Number one, really zero in on where are those competitive gaps.
What is the degree and the conversation around AI these days?
Executives are asking a lot of information on how can they improve their product to be future-proof.
So let's talk about AI optimization.
To win in AI SEO, you really have to focus on.
All right, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman. Today, we are joined by Travis Tallent, Managing Director of SEO and CRO with Brainlabs. Travis, welcome on board.
Thank you. Very excited to be here, Jared.
Man, it's a good day when we're talking like kind of nerdy talk here about SEO, AI search, the future, the now and today of it, where we are and where we're going. Man, I love we get to roll up our sleeves on this podcast. And today I have a feeling is going to be one of those days. So really looking forward to today's topic. Before we get into it, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little backstory, how you got into what you're doing now?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I stumbled into SEO as I feel like most SEOs say. Started in the startup scene, quickly went into digital marketing, and then from there niche down into SEO. And been doing SEO for about 12 years at this point, and I've been leading Brainlabs SEO and CRO teams for about 4 years now. We work with the world's largest enterprise brands, and I am fortunate to be supported by a team of about 90 folks within North America, working on those particular brands. So to me, SEO is, I love all the nerdy stuff. I also love scaling that nerdy stuff. And to me, that's really where my interest lies.
Maybe if you could tell us like what a day to day looks like for you, just to kick us off and get us into your mind, into your head.
Yeah.
When we say SEO, when we say managing director of SEO and CRO, when you talk about kind of 4 years with Brainlabs, like what does that look like on a day to day basis?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say about 50% of my time is spent on new business opportunities. So really identifying for any brands that are interested, what is the high level strategy that's ultimately going to get them to win, so then we can partner with them. About 30% of my time is spent on team management and product development, ensuring that we have a great service, have a great product, are stitching up with the right tech partners, and developing the right in-house tech to scale our efforts. And then the remaining 20% of my time is thought leadership, doing stuff like this, speaking at conferences like MozCon, Brighton SEO, etc.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you spoke recently at Ahrefs Evolve. You've got
Yep.
MozCon on there. I mean, that's quite a nice little list. What are the topics du jour right now that you're discussing when you go to these conferences and when you talk to people about SEO and the changing landscape?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't love how stuff is trending in this space. Like, you go to these conferences, everyone is talking about AI search, and don't get me wrong, this is a really pivotal moment in our industry. But at the end of the day, it's still a very small fragment of the audience and searches today. And what I really like to focus on is process and scale and how do you move from optimization to orchestration? At the end of the day, I find a lot of SEO teams, no matter the size of the company, they get stuck doing audits and random acts of SEO. Maybe that's like one-off content briefs or one-off internal linking on pages. And it's not this big coordinated effort with developers and product dev and so on and so forth. And in my mind, and from what I've seen, the best SEO is really when it is a well orchestrated uh, uh, machine as opposed to just these random acts of SEO.
You, I believe, as we were working towards an agenda for today, I saw you say something in the notes in the build up search everywhere optimization. I feel like that kind of maybe piggybacks a little bit on what you're talking about right now. AI search, which we'll get into, folks. Don't worry. We're going to talk about it. It is fun to talk about. But to your point, like it's not just about what's coming. Search is still driven from a click standpoint primarily by the good old organic links you find in Google. When you say search everywhere optimization, like is this kind of bit what you're talking about, where it's not just about what's coming with AI and AI search, but also about optimizing for the here and the now?
Yeah, I've been using this new analogy that seems to be going over really well. Uh, SEO used to be a house, and think of your website as that house. Technical SEO is the foundation of that house. On-site SEO and any content was the framing. Off-site SEO, so any like digital PR backlinks, that was the curb appeal. And then conversion rate optimization or site experience was the staging of that house, helping people ultimately move it. In the world of AI SEO, I would think of it like a city. You still have your house as your website, but then you have Google and TikTok and Amazon and Walmart and LinkedIn and all of these other platforms that are then feeding a network of the ChatGPTs, the AI overviews, any of that out there that are then transmitting information back down to an individual. So our world has expanded beyond just focusing on the website and really integrating with your organic social teams, your programmatic teams. You know what affiliate and sponsor content are you running on
Mm.
all of these pages? Um, so yes, it are the to win in AI SEO, you really have to focus on optimizing for all of these searchable platforms.
Right, right. Um, I mean, you're focused mostly on enterprise level SEO, so big brands, big websites, big platforms, big reach. Do you have any? I don't want to make this like a case study exactly, but do you have any examples we can use to then get into some of the strategies and the tactics you use?
Yeah, absolutely. One success comes to mind. It's a very large uh, B to B to C and B to B website. It's a developer's favorite hangout spot, if you will. This has been a tremendous success over the last year or so in our partnership. It's a massive and complicated website, something like 61 million pages.
Good grief.
You know, over 20 million in keyword rankings. As most large enterprise sites, there's a user generated content component. There's actual like marketing pages that drive revenue. There's support content. There are docs, internal content that can be paywalled or shared among users. And yeah, so I would love to unpack that and answer any questions you have about that example.
I'd love to like let's use that as a good framework if we can. I know there's some specific questions I want to ask you about what you're working on that's working, but let's use that as a framework. I mean, from a high level, how did you guys approach that? 61 million pages, I think I heard you say. That's a lot. That's a big site. I'm curious to hear the dynamics of how you guys went about optimizing for that.
Yeah, my partner is in medicine, just graduated nurse practitioner school, and anyone if you know anyone in medicine, they frequently talk about triage, focusing on what is going to be the every patient is a priority, but it's a matter of who is the bigger priority, right? And on a large enterprise site like this, you have to go through that same triage process. There are parts of the website that are revenue drivers. There are parts of the website that are not revenue drivers. And then from there, going into there are parts of the website that already have better engagement and performance versus parts of the website that don't. So the way that we structure this is through a framework that we call RISE, which stands for radius or reach, intent, scale, and then execution. And when you go through that process, almost like a nurse would triage, then you end up with a very clear uh, SEO strategy moving forward. And you shift from these random acts of SEO and the one-off audits to a calculated plan that's actually going to drive the business forward.
That seems to help, but so you go from 61 million down to what, 500,000 pages now? I mean, I get it, I get it. And I think that's important for people to hear. Like, a lot of folks when they are working on SEO don't always use revenue as the KPI. They might use page views. They might use any number of different KPIs, right? Number of
Yep.
keywords that it is ranking for. Um, and as a KPI, that makes a lot of sense. How do you consider, though, what to work on when it relates to revenue? What about key pages that contribute to that page ranking well? Maybe informational content that pushes people towards those revenue pages. Like, how far out does this radius expand?
Yeah, I think so put simply, I would always start with the brand versus non-brand view, right? Like what is how is that brand ultimately showing up? And is this more of a you need to lean into the brand or you need to lean more into non-brand? In this case, this is a heavy hitting brand. Everyone knows this brand in this space. So then it becomes, okay, let's shift our focus to non-brand and do exactly what you're
Mm,
saying, Jared. Where is that opportunity in that we call it the consumer search journey from the moment of someone considering this product or service, all the way through them actually using that product or service, and then map those non-brand keyword opportunities across that entire search journey, and then you start really zeroing in on okay, the opportunity in this case was more discovery. It was more upper funnel. We layered over competitor visibility. How is this website performing against competitors within each of these moments that matter across the consumer search journey? And we found that this site was crushing it in consideration, conversion, and loyalty, and was getting crushed in discovery. So to your point, Jared, it does uh, matter in terms of, how are you mapping this back to the data? Um, Obviously 61 million pages, you're right. Like it's just impossible to optimize that many pages.
yeah, yeah.
So you do need to zero down, and I think doing that external research, taking a look outside of your own website data, because that's going to give you a very biased perspective, um, is ultimately how you do that across that entire consumer search journey.
Okay. Hey everyone, just a quick break from the interview for something important. You know that AI is changing search and how tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google's AI, how they decide which brands actually show up. And that's exactly why my agency, 201 Creative, put together the GEO Snapshot Audit. So it shows how AI is interpreting your brand across 5 key categories and it pinpoints what's missing so you can start appearing in AI driven results. We've already done a bunch of these for Niche Pursuits listeners, and the feedback has been awesome. Renee said, it gave me insights that I've never seen anywhere else. Tony said, through the report, I was able to make a quick but important change to my site that I had no idea was having negative impacts. So you can grab yours at 201creative.com/GEO snapshot. Again, that's 201creative.com/GEO snapshot. Spots are limited, and once they're gone, they're gone. All right, let's get back to the interview. Well, I mean, let's get into what you ended up doing and how you handled that size of scale. Even if you were able to go from 61 million pages, you're going to work on down to a certain smaller percentage. That's still quite a bit of pages. I'm curious to hear all the stuff that you guys did.
Yeah, absolutely. So step number one, radius or reach. To me, this is really where we size the prize and go through that exercise that I just mentioned. Start with brand versus non-brand, then consumer search journey. Identify where the non-brand volume and opportunity is based on visibility. Um, and then I would also look at, and we did also look at growth trends. In this case, AI was the largest growing category, probably to no one's surprise over the last year. And it was also the least saturated out of any of the other categories. There were not a ton of first movers in this space at the time. So we doubled down on that non-brand opportunity within AI, and that really allowed us to um, zero in on certain topics that could make sense. But number two is we need to focus on intent. Not every audience searching for a specific keyword is going to be as valuable as other audiences. So then we layer over in those moments that matter who who's or what moments matter to who, and you layer over that type of audience data, and what one of the things to really just tie in the AI search piece here is that typically extends viewing other platforms and websites too. For example, if you see that your target audiences are spending a ton of time on LinkedIn or Reddit or YouTube, etc., you shouldn't only be looking at website
Yeah.
content. You should be expanding beyond that. So that's really narrowing down the intent. Then, to your point, you'll zero in on a handful of opportunities. That 61 million now becomes a few thousand, right? And then you need to ask yourself, how do we scale that? I think most people really focus on the random acts of SEO, and I'm going to create each individual page all at once, and it's not totally laddering up into this broader strategy. So we use a RICE model, which allows us to multiply the reach by the impact, by the confidence, divided by the effort to develop that piece of content. And this is going to be a different scoring mechanism for every single company out there, depending on what resources do you have available, right? So in this case, creating multimedia content for this particular brand is really difficult and it takes a lot of
Mm,
effort.
okay.
Um, Multiple rounds of revision, review, expense. So we zeroed in our opportunity on written content. Um, and then identifying tech as a way to scale those opportunities. So one of the things that we realized when we went through that consumer search journey is there is a lot of existing content for one of those moments that matter. And I'm not going to say because it'll give it away, the brand, but there's a lot of content around that, but relatively low visibility. And we dug deeper, and it actually just ended up being a big internal linking snafu. And so we identified that um, opportunity, and then created a script automation to then improve internal linking across all of those pages. So again, laddering up to this strategy that's not a random act of SEO. Random act of SEO would be like fixing one internal link on this one page, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that allowed us to scale and boost visibility in that particular category.
I think that's a challenge that a lot of people who are working on projects run into, and that is the this when you get into a scale conversation. How does being an SEO look? Because it's very different to be an SEO that understands how 200 pages internally linked together and can go and make it happen versus how to scale that knowledge to a larger project, an enterprise level project. I mean, without turning this into a 10-hour PhD masterclass, maybe help people who work on smaller projects out in how to think about and maybe some of the tools they need or some of the tactics they need to scale these sorts of efforts like you're discussing?
Yeah, number one is create an agreed upon prioritization framework. So we use Rice, but I've seen other companies actually back this into, SEO A/B testing using a tool like Search Pilots, or there are handfuls of them now, and running tests to specifically say, hey, if we deploy this, this is the impact that this is ultimately going to have in terms of traffic, conversion rate, whatever else. So create whatever that agreed upon framework and prioritization scale is with any of the other stakeholders, developers, etc. Number two is really learn the KPIs of others. To me, you mentioned early on, like, hey, not every SEO looks at revenue and revenue impact. I, I do, like, that's where I sit. Like, I'm having conversations with CMOs and CEOs where that is their sole focus. They do not
Mhm.
care how much traffic they get. They care about how much revenue is in the bank and how's their company growing. But on, at a different company or a different position, you might be working with the development team directly, and you should care about what the development team's KPIs and goals are. Is it, speed to implementation? Is it site speed? Is it conversion rate? And then align your strategies to their KPIs. That's how you get ultimate buy-in. And then the very last thing I'll say here is, it requires a lot of education. And one of the best ways that we have found to deliver education is create what we call playbooks. So if you're working with a development team, create a technical SEO playbook. Hey, for every new page launched on the website or new section launched on the website, make sure all of these things are true, and give them step-by-step instructions. Oh, it's included in the XML sitemap. There's, the appropriate meta robots tags, so on and so forth. And you can do that for content. You can do that for digital PR. You can now do that for organic social as it relates to AI search. And you really start educating people on how their work impacts you and your role and vice versa. And you really start to create this culture of SEO advocacy.
Let's continue let's continue with this example here. What did execution look like? Obviously, I want to ask you about results, so we'll get to that. But like, what did the execution look like in terms of timeline and in terms of what you guys ended up doing from a high level?
Yeah. So similar to to what I just said, number one in that execution was really aligning on what is the outcome that we want to achieve, and then mapping that back to, okay, what stakeholders do we need involved to make that achievable, and then creating very defined communication cadences between all those teams and stakeholders on, cool, this is what we're going to deliver when. Um, and having everyone agree to that. So, weekly status meetings that then rotated between dev teams and content teams and so on and so forth. Number two, we work off a um, quarterly SEO strategy framework, and that really allows us to have a broader year long goal and ambition, but then be nimble enough to change whenever there's new algorithm updates or AI overviews are now taking up more of the SERPs, etc. Um, and that flywheel has been really effective for us, moving toward execution. And then last but not least, a lot of clients and, especially C-level executives are going all in on AI. And the reality is AI is really good at some things and really awful at a lot of other things. And you're better at, your best bet is to focus on other ways to improve process, automation, and flow. He owns one portion of that entire process. But thinking about that entire process from start to finish, how can we improve, that execution and that scale over time?
So when it comes to the execution, what types of things did you guys end up actively doing on
Ah,
this type
yes.
of site?
Yeah. So, for this particular site, it was a really big content play. So
Okay.
expanding the discovery content, upper funnel content,
Mhm.
for this particular site, optimizing the money making pages, um, you know, for more non-brand, less brand terms, and that really helped a lot. And then again, focusing on that, on internal linking, some minor tech SEO stuff, and making sure that we're ultimately able to um, move all of these levers smoothly and efficiency in a complex org.
Okay. Okay, good. That's content, right? If it's a content play, I'd love to learn a little bit how you're doing content on an enterprise level. I've interviewed people over the last year or so, and they've had very different perspectives on what content looks like
Mm,
today. I've had people come on and talk about how they've moved away from content, just because, especially top of the funnel, right at the top, they've moved away from content because AI's eating it all up. So forget about it. I don't believe in topical authority anyway. So forget that whole thing. And then I've talked to people who are the exact opposite, who said, well, everyone else is just pumping out top of the funnel content that was written by an AI writing tool. I'm using this as an opportunity to create really, really, really amazing top of the funnel content, knowing that it's the introduction for many people to my brand,
mhm.
knowing that this is a way to actually stand out as everything goes a different direction. So, I'm curious your approach to top of the funnel content, and maybe it is brand specific, but from a high level, like what did that look like in this example?
Yeah, I my personal opinion is, you should absolutely aim to be in any AI overview or, visible in any LLM. And the way that you do that is by developing a full funnel content strategy. And the goal of upper funnel content is not traffic. The goal of upper funnel content is SERP visibility, and LLM visibility, brand visibility.
Which AI overviews would be a visibility checkbox.
Exactly, exactly. Like no one is going to buy from your brand if they don't know you exist or they don't know that you have like that product or service that is being offered. I have heard a lot of people to your point say, "Hey, let's steer away from upper funnel content because it's not driving traffic or conversions." Um,
Or it's driving less traffic and conversions.
less,
Yeah,
right?
even that. Yeah.
But in my mind, I think that is a very short sighted play, especially in the enterprise space where you already have a fantastic brand. People want your voice, your opinions. You can and you should absolutely lean into all types of content. So that's number one. Number two, I also agree that this is an opportunity to create something way better than what AI can output. Because a lot of I think I read a recent study. I want to say it was from Graphite saying 50% of all content now is AI generated. That's insane. Like I think if it continues at that pace, we are going to see a desire for brands to have more people forward subject matter
Mhm.
expert, especially in the B2B SaaS space, uh, type of content that people ultimately crave. And I think we'll see that backlash at some point. Um, so in the way that we do content is very hands-on. Let's identify what topics actually matter. Let's pull from um, subject matter experts. So like pull quotes, we'll interview them. Sometimes they actually byline the content if it's a topic they're really interested in and passionate about. And then layer over the SEO optimizations and all of that. And then broadly speaking, uh, doing that across multiple platforms and multiple media formats like video is really effective at ensuring the SERPs can see, okay, this brand is a topical authority in this space. not just AI generated written content, you know? So yeah, that's my take. I think upper funnel content still plays a really important role. But I do know that this is a hotly debated topic
I,
in the industry.
I had to ask you one, highly debated thing. Almost piggybacking on that, I'm going to pull from your MozCon overview, presentation overview, if I can. You know, for folks that have limited resources, what are some of the biggest visibility gains? What are some of the biggest things they can do to get visibility gains with limited resources?
Yeah. Number one, really zero in on where are those competitive gaps in your competitor visibility, and zero in on like be hyper specific on what are those opportunities. And that's really in the Rise framework. That's really where reach and intent come in. When you go through that process, you identify, okay, I've sized the prize. What is the intent of this audience? Where are they hanging out? And what's the competitor visibility there? And sometimes I've seen this a lot in the retail beauty space. Um, when TikTok first launched, there were a ton of retail beauty competitors that were able to get in early on that particular audience and just dominate market share. Now they're, well-known beauty brands. Um, so really zeroing in on where is your audience, where are they hanging out, where are competitors not playing, and spend all of your time and focus and energy on that. And that is going to be different depending on your brand, your niche, so on and so forth.
Let's talk about results. How
Yeah.
long was the project, or at least the project we're measuring? What ended up being the results here?
Yeah. So they still working with them. But for this particular project, it was year long. And in that year, it was 400% growth in SEO optimized traffic. That results in 2,000 net new page one keywords. And it is the most heavily cited brand in AI search results as well. So again, going after upper funnel, those target consideration and conversion pages, that has led to becoming highly visible in all search spaces.
Suffice to say, they're probably quite happy.
Very happy. Yes.
Um, so this is a topic that I'm glad we have a little time to ask about, and I wanted to wait to ask until now, and that is about how you measure results. What are you using these days
Mm,
to measure the results and to share back with clients? A lot has changed in the reporting and really measuring and tracking side of things over the last couple of years,
yeah.
from keyword rankings, from visibility. Obviously, even just in the most recent couple of months, we lost the ability to track the top 100, which obviously changed a lot of data from third party tools. With all that being said, how are you reporting back? How are you measuring results? What are you finding to be the most accurate and successful way to do that?
Yeah. So you're asking for KPIs, not necessarily tools, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So um the long-term vision, like, the most mature brands out there, and there are not many of them, it's very difficult to get to this stage, but the most mature brands out there are focused on what is our visibility across the internet, not only on Google search, but also YouTube and any of the other platforms that matter to them and or their competitors. Number 2 is then mapping that visibility back to revenue. So then you can get uh, uh, tied to what is that share of signals attribution. And then, of course, any of the other business metrics, lifetime value, revenue growth, all of that jazz. So that's on one end of the spectrum. It takes a lot of data maturity to get there, but I think it is worth stair stepping your way toward that. On the other end of the spectrum, um, say you just have, GA4, GSC stood up. Uh, absolutely looking at organic traffic, now also looking at referral traffic, because that's typically how AI search traffic comes in. And then what we have found is an increase in brand search demand is a good indicator of uh, AI visibility. And for many of our clients, we've seen that as AI visibility increases, assuming that their brand is performing well within AI visibility, we see a direct correlation to an increase in branded search demand. And a lot of times that can come in direct traffic, that can come in other channels. So really looking at all of these, all of these various channels that historically we would not look at as SEOs.
So let's talk about AI search. Let's talk about AI optimization. Let's talk about optimizing for LLMs and these sorts of things. I mean, we have some time, and I want to make sure we do talk about it. I'll frame it the same as you. Like, it's important to discuss. It's not the end all be all today. Fair enough. We can kind of leave that debate where it belongs and move into kind of learning from you on it. So, assuming that a brand does prioritize ranking in LLMs and ranking in AI overviews, what how are you approaching that conversation any differently than what you would do for a brand that comes to you with only an organic search play?
Yeah, love that you are asking for this. To be honest, the strategies have merged. And the
Mhm.
reason why they've merged is because of Google's AI overviews and Google's AI mode. So, like, when we say AI search, that's inclusive of AI overviews and AI mode. And in order to perform within that, the biggest shift from traditional SEO to AI SEO is it's evolved beyond the website. So all of the traditional SEO stuff, tech SEO, on-site SEO, content, so on and so forth, that all matters. And that's all really, really important for performing within AI search. Um, but to really dominate in AI search is to be multi-platform,
Mm,
or as Google calls it, multimodal,
mhm.
to have multimedia on these platforms, to really surround your audience with multiple different strategies and not just focus on your website. Um, so that's the biggest shift, I would say, from traditional SEO to AI SEO.
What does that mean in brass tacks, especially for maybe a smaller SEO who isn't working on enterprise level site and is and I don't want to reach because I'm sure you're still working with enterprise clients forced to make decisions about where to put time, money, and effort.
Yes.
However, I'm also trying to just get to the cut to the chase and be like talking to the person who's listening who's like, I don't work on enterprise level projects.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to someday, but right now I'm working on even medium-sized projects.
Yep.
And so, it sounds like a be everywhere strategy, which immediately gets people to go, how am I supposed to be everywhere with limited time, limited budget, limited resources?
Yeah, it really, really good question. And I think to be honest, like the be everywhere strategy has always worked in marketing and it will continue to work.
Yes, totally agree.
So
It's
yes,
like the
like
holy grail, and how do we work
yes.
towards it without, throwing the baby out with the bathwater?
Right. So to start, I think it is about understanding that reach and intent and really zeroing in on where is your audience. Because even if you don't win an AI search, but you know that your audience is really heavy on YouTube or really heavy on Reddit or LinkedIn or whatever it is, um, go in on that platform and you will win your audience to where then they start searching for you, you by brand, right? And like that is really, really effective. Um, I think sadly, like to win an AI search, uh, to dominate in AI search, it really is a be everywhere strategy. So maybe don't start there as like step number one. I would go focus on where your audience is, what you do have time or resources for, um, and then stair step to adding additional channels and so on and so
Mhm.
forth, so you can win an AI search. But I think, Jared, this is this is what makes SEOs and marketers kind of scared about AI search is it does require so much more time and resources. And what I've found traditionally, SEO gets a fraction of the attention, the budget, the resources that paid advertising does. And I think now is a good time to rethink that and to really uh, uh, communicate the importance of a be everywhere organic strategy that's actually building the brand. Not just, hey, let's throw money at all of these, at the Google and the Metas of the world and all of that. Um, so yeah, we are in the messy middle right now, but that would be my advice to anyone starting small.
On the enterprise level, do you make a distinction between optimizing for AI overviews versus LLMs, such as a
Mm.
ChatGPT, a Perplexity? If you don't, why not? And if you do, why and what is the distinction?
Yeah, there is a slight distinction here. So, and this will probably change as these
Totally.
crawlers and search engines change. In
Yep.
fact, ChatGPT seems like just tanked visibility for Reddit citations. So, all that to say, this will change. As of today, to win in AI overviews is basically to have really good website SEO.
Mhm.
It's something like 98% of citations within AI overviews rank on page one. So make sure you have really good SEO. And Google is an advanced crawler which can access JavaScript and any of the more technical and heavy portions of the website. LLMs can't. So LLMs obviously have training data and then they have grounded data. And in the training data, a lot like you can't influence that until the LLM retrains. Um, in the grounding data, it's a matter of making sure that that content and that information is easily accessible. So don't hide it behind um, client side rendered don't hide content behind client side rendered uh um uh rendering, so on and so forth. Like make sure that all of the technical stuff is a really easy order. Even like the way content is presented, making sure that it's uh they use this term called chunks. I don't like that term, but I like to say uh, uh, parsing the
Okay.
content is parsable, um, easily digestible for these types of LLMs. And we've had to work with large enterprise sites to really tweak a lot of the information that they show. Um, an example, we work with a very large bank. They use dynamic rate changes on the site that are JavaScript rendered.
Oh boy.
And if you look in an LLM, it'll pull the wrong rate
Yeah.
from training data because it can't access that otherwise. So that's just a prime example of like AI overviews would get that right, but LLMs would not, and that's why it's important to focus on both.
I love asking people this who are involved with businesses, large or small. And so I'm curious your take on, and again, let me put it out there. This will probably change too, but maybe not quite as fast as the way that the LMs are working. You said at the outset, like, hey, AI is all the rage with businesses right now. What are the kind of things they're asking about on a more detailed level? And I'm just curious because the more we can learn as practicing SEOs, what businesses are concerned about, what the conversations in the boardrooms are like, what their level of expertise or knowledge is as it relates to these sorts of questions, the better we would be able to service them and then understand the
Yeah.
intent behind them. So I'm just curious, like, you're in these very high level conversations with these really big brands. What is the degree and the conversation around AI these days?
Yeah, it's been fascinating to see this evolve over the last 2 years. The conversations as they sit today, it is about resource allocation and media mix. We're having a lot of conversations on, there's probably a world where it makes sense to take the top 5 to 10% worst performing ad budget and shift that to multimedia creation, shift
Mm,
that to, other platforms where we know AI search is pulling information from. So that's number one. Number two, I'm getting asked a lot about how products need to change and evolve. Um, and I don't think this has like really set in with mainstream yet. But even in our own use case, I'm sure we all have these examples where I fixed my car using ChatGPT. I just saved myself a $500 mechanic bill, but to that mechanic down the street, they just lost $500 of revenue. So executives are asking a lot of information on how can they improve their product and their service to be future proof, and something that hmm, AI isn't totally going to solve. And in that case of the mechanic, I hate going to the car mechanic. It's like, you have to drop off your car. I don't
oh
have a
yeah,
ride home. Like
oh yeah.
it's awful. So to that business owner, it's like, what if you offered free rides home or you offered free vehicle pickup or whatever, right? Like thinking through that service model so then it becomes easier than someone fixing it themselves with AI. And I think that is true for white collar industries, blue collar industries, like everything is going to be impacted by this to some degree. And executives have now caught wind of that and are asking a lot of information around, you know, how the data that we have, how that can benefit them. And then last but not least is I've been in more conversations as an SEO being asked where and how paid media strategies should be launched than I ever have in my entire career. And I think it's because, again, we have data. Like we as SEOs can scrape the likes of Reddit and LinkedIn and really understand like what content and topics are being talked about. What is the visibility among those competitors, and how can that be leveraged for paid media advertising decisions? So yeah, those are the
Mm,
top three things.
okay, that's fascinating. Boy. Okay, thank you. Um, Hey, I want to give people a chance, or I want to give you a chance, sorry, to direct people where they can follow along with more of what you're doing. You speak
Yeah.
quite a bit at a lot of the conferences and the brands that a lot of our listeners will know and love. Moz and Ahrefs just recently, to name a few. But where can people catch up with you, follow along with what you're doing? Maybe reach out to you if they have something specific, a project in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn. I've gone all in on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. Feel free to follow Travis Talent on LinkedIn. And if you're interested, subscribe to my Talent Takes marketing newsletter, where I post about biweekly some thoughts or musings related to SEO, AI, search, so on and so forth.
Perfect. We'll get both those included in the show notes as well. Travis, this has been wonderful. We covered a lot, actually. It wasn't just a high level discussion. So I appreciate you coming on board. Thanks for sharing the results of your project that you've been working on. But more importantly, thanks for just sharing a broad and detailed look at where things are at right now: SEO, CRO, AI, etc.
Heck yeah. Thank you, Jared. Very much appreciate it. And if any listeners have any questions, feel free to have them reach out. I'm excited.
Thank you again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, before we wrap up, one last reminder. If you still haven't checked out how AI tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and even Google are seeing your brand, well, now's the time. Our GEO Snapshot audit at 201 Creative breaks down your visibility across 5 key categories, and it shows you exactly what to fix so you start showing up in AI-driven search. We've already done this for a lot of Niche Pursuits listeners over the last couple of weeks, and we're keeping this free snapshot offer open just a little bit longer. You'll get your visibility score plus clear next steps tailored exactly to your brand. Go to 201creative.com/GEO snapshot to claim it. Again, that's 201creative.com/GEO snapshot. Grab your spot while it's available. All right. Talk to you on the next podcast.